Welcome to Moments of Truth, a CEO leadership video series. Today we'll be speaking with Rich Templeton, Chairman and CEO of Texas Instruments. Let's hear what he has to say. Mr. Templeton, thank you for joining us on Moments of Truth for the Cox School of Business. I appreciate your time. I want to talk to you a little bit about innovation, both at TI and in general in our country. I'm curious, first of all, how do you define innovation? What does innovation mean to you?
You know, in some ways, I guess the easiest definition is doing things differently, and hopefully by it being different, they're more valuable or better.
Yeah.
And that could be products, it could be services, it could be processes. So really just different approaches to the old problems.
What were the trends that you saw that led you to the conclusion that analog and embedded is where we needed to go, or you needed to go?
Well, you know, we've just looked over time, and if you look 30 to 40 years in our industry, the predictability or maybe the ability to get good returns from the analog and the embedded area have always been pretty obvious. The key was for us to get bigger and better at it. And if you take a look over the past 15 years, most of the changes we've made have always been about, you know, not being afraid to do fewer things, but do them better. And we've usually been rewarded for that trade-off. It's never easy when you're going through the change, but.
What finally gets inside you that says, okay, this is where we're going to go, and there's no turning back?
Yeah, I think one of the things we've got, I think it's a benefit to our culture and being in the tech business, is the only thing that feels uncomfortable to me is not changing. And if you look at companies that stay in the same place for too long or stay doing the same thing for too long, the world in the technology business usually goes by you. So that comfort inside of TI is pretty high. You've watched us even over the past 20 years make a lot of changes to where we're not afraid to focus on fewer things and feel like if we do those better, we'll tend to grow and do a better job for our customers.
As a leader who sets the tone for the organization, to what extent does your own personal appetite for risk-taking permeate the organization's overall appetite?
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure if it's risk-taking, because I actually see it more risky if you don't change.
Interesting.
And I'd put it more in, do you have a curiosity, and do you have a willingness to change? And again, that's why I think we do it pretty well as a company. Is most of the folks that have grown up inside of TI are used to change. You don't just put the same business and portfolios in place forever. So as a result, I think that helps, and I think that, you know, gets us through these changes probably easier than maybe companies that are in other industries.
I suspect that some people looking from the outside in at the role of the CEO is that you're making all the decisions, but it seems like somebody at some point developed that person, selected that person, and put him in that role to do that, and got out of his way to make that decision. Do you find that executives, your peers, sometimes can't strike that balance well enough to know when to put their hands in and when not to take, and how do you make those judgments?
Yeah, you know, my best description of it, I think you see it as people rise up in the organization, is you've got to develop a high-low perspective. There are times when you have to operate at a high level because you've done enough checking or enough instinct that you know it's all getting done right. And there's times when you better be going in pretty low and paying really close attention to the details to try to get a feeling. And so I think that ability to balance when to be high and when to be low is something, and I think the good ones will develop that touch and they'll develop that instinct as they're growing in the organization. You'll be able to spot that, see who's good at it, see who's comfortable with it.
What information or what signals do you think you listen to know when to make that shift?
Yeah. Well, for me in this job, and I advise it to anybody, and that is, if you want to know what's happening inside a big organization, spend the time outside. And you know, a lot of people think, well, if I hold enough internal reviews, I can find out what's happening. And I will tell you, go spend a week traveling with your salespeople and your customers, and you'll come back with the list of what's broke or what needs to be looked at. It'll just take you to the right places. It'll take you to them much faster, and it'll get you to the real issues.
So what gives you hope if you think about the future, both of TI, our nation, the world in general?
Well, I just look at the creativity that we've got around us in this world. I look at the products that I see, you know, great young minds coming up with, and it's fascinating to see, and it's fun. Our cars look different today than they did just 5 years ago. Our cell phones look different. Our air conditioners are going to be, you know, connected by Wi-Fi, so your service people can, you know if something's broke. These are all wonderful trends, and so I think it's fun, and I think it ends up having a pretty impressive impact on standard of living and growth of the economy and those aspects. So even with all the horrible headlines of what's happening in the
Yes.
economies, I think there is quite a bit of creativity in the world.
Thanks to Rich Templeton for joining us today, and thanks to you for watching. I hope you'll join us again next time for more CEO insights on Moments of Truth. I'm Mickey Quiñones from SMU's Cox School of Business.